You know how it is when you trust your significant other, and then at some point your world collapses due to an absurd situation. My name is William. I'm 29 years old, and I play professional basketball in Chicago. My girlfriend, Lily, is 24. We've been together for a few years now, and she's always been so supportive, traveling to my games, and being there for me through all the crazy, hectic schedules and sacrifices that life requires. But unfortunately or fortunately, I had to take the virginity of two girls at the same time. It all started with me coming into what could be the biggest season of my career. Honestly, I was so focused that I think I just started shutting out everything else. I even started holding off on, physical things with Lily to keep my energy focused. I figured if my mind is 100% focused on the game, I'm going to perform at my best, right? Over the last few months, Lily had been giving me these signals, subtle hints that she missed our time, then bigger hints that we weren't even going out for coffee or getting pastries from that little bakery we both loved. I was on this strict diet and had no time for the little treats we used to share. Then the way she'd greet me at home in her role-playing costumes to excite me, but it just irritated me. I wanted support, not provocation, because I had a target with a big payday shining on me. I didn't even notice until she stopped asking to hang out altogether. I thought she was okay. I thought she knew I'd made amends after the season. But maybe I was far from the truth. It started to get to me when she didn't just hint at her feelings, but finally told me that she felt neglected. I remember the way she looked at me the night she said it. She said she missed the guy who used to text her back in the middle of the day or surprise her with random quick dates. Even something as simple as going to the lake, looking at the city lights, and just talking. She was in tears when she told me she didn't feel like my girlfriend anymore. She felt like a prop who followed us around to games and nothing more. There was one day that really shook me up. Lily usually came to the games, but she wasn't there that particular night. I kept looking up at the stands, expecting to see her face, expecting her to wave at me or give me that encouraging smile, but there was nothing. I felt out of place the entire game. Afterward, asking if she was okay. She responded a few hours later, simply saying she was busy with something. That was it. I couldn't tell if she was angry, sad, or just tired. Things couldn't go on like this. The distance was growing, and I was painfully aware that if I didn't do something soon, she would be gone forever. So I decided to come home from training early and throw her a little surprise. I cooked our favorite dinner, shrimp carbonara, and planned a candlelit dinner just for us. Nothing fancy, but I hoped it would remind her of all the good times we'd had. When she walked in, the look on her face was all I needed to know I'd done something right. She beamed, and for a second it felt like everything was normal again, like it had been before my life started revolving around training and competition prep. But as we started talking over the meal, it all became a little too real. She seemed genuinely touched, but then she looked down at her plate and said something I didn't expect. She asked me, almost casually, if I felt like an open relationship, just until my competition was over next month. I didn't know what to say. A million thoughts were racing through my head. I could tell she was missing some affection, someone to make her feel special, but I never thought she'd actually suggest it. She laid it out like it was no big deal, saying she'd always be low-key, not know either of us, and no long-term commitment. Just filling the gap, as she put it, while I was too busy to give her what she needed. The more I thought about it, the more I began to wonder if maybe this was my chance to even things out and make her happy without sacrificing my training. So after some thought, I told her I'd take it. I knew it was a risk, but I was desperate to keep her. We set a few ground rules. No secret hookups with mutual friends, complete honesty about who we were dating, and no emotional attachments. If we wanted to go on a date or spend the night with someone else, we told each other first. It was surreal. A few days passed, and everything seemed fine. I was mostly busy with training, but I knew Lily had started dating some guy named Eric she'd met through friends. We stuck to our rules. She was upfront about it, and I tried not to ask too many questions. But the more I thought about her being with someone, the more this weird feeling crept in, like maybe I should try dating someone too, just to even the playing field. I didn't have much time for dating, but maybe talking to someone would keep me from obsessing over what she was doing. That's when things took an unexpected turn. Out of nowhere, I started getting these playful, flirty messages from Sophie, my girlfriend's 20-year-old sister. It started out innocently enough. She'd always joke around with me, throwing me compliments and teasing me about my muscles or whatever. But this time, the tone was different. She'd text me late at night, commenting on photos or sending me memes that were a little too suggestive and cheesy. It was one of those things that you just know when someone is hinting at something more. At first, I brushed it off as Sophie just being Sophie. But then I noticed that she was texting me almost every day, dropping little hints about Lily, mentioning our arrangement, and asking if I'd met anyone interesting yet. I thought she was just curious, until one message kicked it up a notch. She texted, "So are you using this open relationship to have some fun yet? Or are you still Mr. Committed?" And then there was a winking emoji, plus a comment about how maybe I needed someone to show me a good time. I tried to ignore it, chalking it up to her just teasing, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't get to my head. Here was this flirty, young girl pushing my buttons, and it was tempting. But I couldn't do that, right? So I tried to keep my cool and distance, telling her I was just focusing on practice. In the meantime, I had an idea to reconnect with this girl named Ava, who was a cheerleader on our team. She's 19, very bold, and she's been pretty open about her interest in me. I kept things casual with her because, well, I had a girlfriend. But now things were different, and I decided that a friendly chat wouldn't hurt. We started texting, and I thought it would be harmless. But Ava wasn't one to beat around the bush. She'd send me flirty messages throughout the day, talking about how we should hang out sometime and saying, "Let me show you something off the court. You need some motivation," winky face, and "maybe we could meet up after practice." It was the kind of boldness that sometimes made me nervous. Just when I thought things couldn't get any harder, Sophie started showing up at my practices. She'd sit on the sidelines, text me quick comments, or make excuses to come by and ask if I was free later. I could tell she was playing some kind of game, probably testing the waters to see if I'd take the bait. She'd even send me photos of herself dressed up before going out, with captions like, "Maybe I should have asked you out instead," or "You're missing out, you know?" And then one day she walked in with Ava by her side. Apparently they were friends. Great. Now I was officially in a bind. Both of these girls seemed to realize I was fair game, and both were vying for my attention. It was like they were challenging me to make a move. The thing was, I'd only agreed to this open relationship because I thought I could handle it. But now my girlfriend's sister and her cheerleader friend were practically turning every practice into a show. It was flattering, yes, but it was also getting out of hand. There was one practice I'll never forget. I was shooting some free throws, trying to focus, when I noticed Sophie and Ava whispering to each other and laughing. I tried to ignore it, but every time I looked their way, one of them would look right at me, smiling, like they knew something I didn't. Then, when we were done, they both came over. Sophie asked if I wanted to go out for a drink sometime, saying, "You know, Lily's busy with her own plans, right?" And Ava just smiled and asked me if I wanted company that night. I felt my composure slipping. On one hand, I wanted everything with Lily to go as smoothly as possible. On the other hand, I had agreed to this open relationship, so technically I wasn't doing anything wrong if I took either of their offers. But we were talking about her sister. I didn't know how I'd be able to look Lily in the eye if she ever found out I'd even thought about it. Finally, the day of my big competition arrived. As I stepped onto the court, adrenaline rushed through me and I instinctively glanced around the stands, hoping to see Lily's face in the crowd. She was always there for me at my games, even when things were tense between us. But today, her seat was empty. She was gone, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. But instead, someone else was watching me, Ava, who had been giving me those languid glances for weeks. I tried to shake my thoughts and focus on the game, but her eyes seemed to be locked on me, her gaze practically challenging me. I was already feeling out of place, but I couldn't let myself get distracted. This was a competition that could open huge doors for me, an opportunity one had been yearning for all along. I played my best, gave it my all on the court, and finally, our team won. The entire arena erupted in cheers. This had to be one of the happiest moments of my life. The first thing I wanted to do after that was call Lily. I was excited, ready to share this victory with her. But just as I was about to dial, my phone vibrated with an incoming call from her sister, Sophie. I picked up the phone, but instead of the expected congratulations, I heard her voice, drunk and slurring, telling me to meet her at a club nearby. She sounded almost frantic, begging me to come immediately. I didn't ask questions. I just gathered my things, said a quick goodbye to the team, and headed for the exit. When I arrived, Sophie was waiting outside, a little unsteady, but clearly happy to see me. She grabbed my hand and led me through the crowded club without saying a word, weaving through people and dragging me toward a dimly lit room in the back. The smoke hung in the air from all the hookahs. The neon lights were flashing and making everything foggy and surreal. I was about to ask her what it was all about when she stopped at the door, looked at me with a strange expression, and then pushed it open. My heart sank inside. There, right in front of me, was Lily. She was riding some guy I didn't recognize, clearly unaware of anyone else's presence. And it wasn't just him. There were a few other guys nearby, staring at her and egging her on, and she was soaking up every ounce of attention. I don't remember much of what happened right after that. There was screaming, maybe mine, maybe my girlfriend's, and then suddenly I was outside, barely aware of how I'd gotten there. But Sophie was right there, talking fast, trying to calm me down. She practically shoved me into my car, telling me she'd come with me for backup. I was too numb to argue, so she sat down and we drove back to my place in complete silence, both avoiding the obvious question. When we finally walked in, I collapsed on the couch, still stunned. Sophie grabbed a bottle of wine and poured us both a glass. I don't even know how much we drank, but eventually she started filling in the blanks. She told me how they'd all gone to the club to celebrate my competition, her idea, not mine, and how she tried to talk Lily out of it. But once her sister had made up her mind, there was no changing it. Sophie shook her head as she told me about Lily's behavior over the past few weeks, how she seemed to enjoy pushing boundaries as much as her legs, testing how far she could go. She looked at me with a mixture of pity and anger, saying, "She's been treating you like this for months. Today was her last trick." We sat there, both feeling betrayed in our own ways, drinking in silence. Eventually, after what must have been hours, Sophie broke the silence. She looked at me, and with a half-smile that was both mischievous and a little sad, said, "You know what? We could use a little distraction ourselves. Let's call Ava." Normally I would have hesitated, but after everything I'd just seen, I was numb and lost. Maybe she was right. So, fueled by a mixture of anger and wine, I agreed. Within an hour, Ava showed up and the energy in the room shifted. Ava, ever the flirt, slid right into the atmosphere, giving me her sly smile, taking in every little gesture and glance that Sophie and I shared. There was an unspoken understanding between us that tonight we were supposed to forget, to lose ourselves in the moment and let the weight of it all just fall away. We kept drinking, kept laughing, and I felt like I was finally letting go of all the pin-up frustration. Before I knew it, one thing led to another. The three of us were tangled in a mess of sheets, and I was deflowering these two young beauties, wine glasses tipped over on the nightstand, all our worries lost in a haze. It was intense and reckless and wild, the way they jumped on me one after the other. And for a while, I forgot about everything. I was lying in bed, Sophie on one side and Ava on the other, when I heard the sound of the front door creak open. And then, there she was, Lily, standing in the doorway, staring at us with an expression I'll never forget.